These are the scariest things astronauts have ever said, Part 3.
Up first, during the Apollo 10 mission, the crew was testing various equipment when they suddenly picked up something terrifying.
The astronauts heard some sort of weird whistling that sounded like nothing they ever heard before.
They said it sounded both peaceful and terrifying at the same time, and later called it space music. Next up, astronaut Gordon Cooper claims to have seen an entire fleet of UFOs.
This is absolutely scary. And what would you do if you saw a whole fleet of UFOs flying past you or coming towards you?
One thing is for sure though, aliens might actually be real.
These are serial killers that are now free, Part 1.
Up first is Issei Sagawa. Issei Sagawa is a Japanese murderer and cannibal who is known for killing Renée Hartfelt in Paris in 1981.
He murdered her and then mutilated her body, and then proceeded to eat her entire body over 3 days.
But due to loopholes in the law, Issei Sagawa is now a free man and lives in Tokyo roaming the streets just like you. Up next is Pedro Lopez, and he's a Colombian serial killer who was found guilty of 110 murders, but he claimed to have raped and killed more than 300 girls across Colombia, Peru, and Ecuador.
He might be one of the worst serial killers ever, due to how many people he actually killed.
But despite murdering over 300 people, Pedro Lopez was only given a 14-year sentence in a psych ward and was later released on good behavior.
These are scary games you should never play alone, Part 4.
This game is called Raku Nini, or also known as the Love Game.
This game allows you to contact an evil spirit who will then find out if somebody is in love with you.
And if that person rejects you, Raku Nini will kill them. To begin, you have to get a leaf and tear it down the middle, and make sure each half is the same size.
Next up, take one half of the leaf and put it in one hand and then the other half in the other.
Then you have to repeat the following. Tell me, Raku Nini. Tell me if she loves me. Tell me, tell me, tell me.
After you say this chant 3 times, tear both halves of the leaf in half.
And if all 4 pieces are the same, it means that the person you like hates you. But if they are different sizes, it means they love you. Raku Nini will then kill the person who doesn't like you in a very gruesome way.
So if you want to find out if somebody loves you, just play this game. These are facts that'll ruin your day, Part 1.
Up first, in France, it is legal to marry a dead person,
as long as they had the intention of marrying you while they were alive. I don't know how I feel about this.
Because how could people believe that the person wanted to marry you when they're dead? Next up, during the grand opening of the Great Pyramid of Tenochtitlan in 1487, the Aztecs sacrificed 84,000 people in just 4 days.
This is honestly mind-blowing, and it just shows you how crazy humans used to be.
Finally, there was actually 14 different species of humans, but 13 of them died out.
Except for us Homo sapiens. I don't know why this fact is scary, but to me, it just doesn't sit right.
Just imagine if Earth had 14 different species of humans.
These are gut-wrenching facts, Part 2.
Up first, Elizabeth Bathory was considered the most murderous woman in history.
She murdered hundreds of young girls and women.
She took baths in virgin's blood to stay young. This is absolutely disturbing and chilling. Next up, actress Angelina Jolie once tried to hire a hitman to kill herself because she felt a murder could be easier on her family instead of her committing suicide.
The hitman actually talked her out of it by asking her to wait a month.
Finally, 166,000 people die per day, which is honestly insane.
But by the time you just finished hearing me say that, 19 people have already died.
So whatever you do, never take your life for granted because it could end at any second.
These are facts that'll ruin your day, Part 2.
Up first, if the Earth suddenly stopped spinning, it would be the equivalent of a car traveling at 1,000 miles per hour instantly stopping.
Every single living thing on Earth would die instantly, and the winds would become stronger than the blast of an atomic bomb,
instantly starting fires all around the planet. Massive storms and tsunamis would also occur. Next up, in the 1920s, Somebody thought it was a good idea to recreate nightmares from children's dreams, but all it did was create more nightmares.
This is just sickening and terrifying, and this is like technically torture.
Next up, modern humans first appeared about 200,000 years ago.
But record keeping didn't begin until 5,500 years ago, which means about 97% of human history is lost.
Imagine the crazy and mind-blowing things we would learn from having that 97%.
These are the scariest things ever found on Google Earth.
Up first, in 1997, William Moult went missing from his home in Florida. But 20 years later, his body was found when his car was seen submerged in a lake on Google Earth.
This is absolutely terrifying, and I wonder what actually happened to this man.
Either way, this proves that you can find extremely creepy things on Google Earth. Up next is this red-colored lake in Iraq's Sadr city.
It was first brought to the internet's attention all the way back in 2007, which started a lot of speculation.
Many theories came out, but the most disturbing and scary one is that a nearby slaughterhouse was dumping blood into the water. Still, to this day, no official explanation has ever been given.
This man treated his girlfriend's son like a dog, which resulted in his death.
This is Peter Connolly. He was a 17-month-old British boy, and over an 8-month period, he suffered more than 50 injuries.
Peter's mom's boyfriend did extremely disturbing and horrific things to him.
He trained his dog to bite him. He pulled out his fingernails and toenails. He often smashed his fingers with heavy objects. He threw him in the air and let him hit the floor. The boyfriend eventually did this so hard that one night he snapped Peter's spine.
One of the most disturbing things about this whole story
is that Peter was trained to be submissive. Anytime the boyfriend entered the room, Peter would automatically put his head to the floor like a dog. This poor little boy was only 17 months old.
This is the scary truth about Stranger Things.
Okay, so Stranger Things is actually based off real events. It was called the Montauk Project.
Sadistic experiments took place underground in secret laboratories connected by a series of tunnels.
Thousands of children were taken off the streets and were kept in those laboratories. They were abused, programmed, and made into super soldiers known as the Montauk Boys.
They used powerful frequencies to alter brainwaves,
and scientists were able to tap into the minds and consciousness of these children. And once they were able to control them, they made them do whatever they wanted. This is what the building looked like in real life, and this is what it looked like in Stranger Things.
This is absolutely disturbing because I never knew Stranger Things was based off real events.
So tomorrow when the final episodes come out, just remember, this is not made up.
These are last words from Black Box Airplane Crashes, Part 1.
Up first is Alaskan Airlines, Flight 261. The flight was routine until 2 hours in,
when a mechanical issue caused by poor airplane maintenance sent the aircraft into an 8,000-foot nosedive.
Every single person died on this plane, and these are the final words from the pilots.
Master 261 taken to. We're at 26,000 feet. We are in a vertical dive. Not a dive yet, but we've lost vertical control of our airplane.
Up next is ValueJet Flight 592. Problems started soon right after takeoff, when passengers began to smell smoke in the cabin.
At the same time, the pilots heard a big bang, and a fire then started. The plane then nosedived into a field, killing everybody on board. These are the last words from the pilots.
Smoke in the cabin, smoke in the cabin.
These are the luckiest people in human history, Part 2.
Okay, so we all know accidents can happen, but for an Australian man named Bill Morgan, it was when he was tragically crushed when his car met with a truck in an accident.
He was dead for more than 14 minutes. He somehow managed not only to survive,
but also recover from a 12-day coma, even after his family removed the life support.
That's not the end of it though.
To celebrate the new life he was granted, he bought a scratch-it card and won a $27,000 car.
To document his incredible story,
a local news channel asked him to reenact the winning moment by scratching another card. only for him to win $250,000 again during the live reenactment. This is absolutely wild, and I don't know how anybody else could have more luck.
These are the luckiest people in human history, part 1.
Okay, so did you know the chance of you winning the lottery is 1 in 200 million?
In fact, you are more likely to die by getting hit by an asteroid.
So, how would you explain Joan R. Ginther's situation then? She won a lottery not once, but an unimaginable 4 times. Her life changed when she first won a cool $5.4 million,
only to win $2 million 10 years later.
But it doesn't end there. 2 years later, she won $3 million and a staggering $10 million in 2008. This is by far the luckiest person in human history. Next up, a woman named Ovida Adams tried to commit suicide by jumping off the Empire State Building. But when she jumped from the 86th floor, she was blown back onto the 85th floor by a strong gust of wind. This is absolutely crazy, and this had to be a sign it was not her time to go.
These are horror movies coming out in 2022 that you need to see.
Up first is The Invitation. This movie is about a girl named Evie who lost her mother and has no other known relatives.
She then does a DNA test and learns about a long-lost cousin she had no idea about. When she accepts an invitation from her new family to attend a lavish wedding in the English countryside,
the host initially seduces her, but she soon finds herself in a survival nightmare as she learns about the dark secrets of her family's past and the sinister motivations behind their extravagant generosity.
Evie will ultimately have to fight for her life and discover the darkest elements of herself to survive.
So if you like horror thrillers, vampires, and blood, this movie comes out August 26th and it's definitely for you.
This serial killer turned his victims into hamburgers.
Throughout history, numerous serial killers, such as Ted Bundy, Jeffrey Dahmer, and John Wayne Gacy, have terrorized the nation by boasting about their crimes on the media. However, many of us never even heard of Joe Matheny, a demented serial killer whose extremely graphic confession deeply disturbed even the most experienced law enforcement officials.
He was responsible for at least 3 murders, and Matheny was arrested in December 1996.
Although he was convicted of killing 3 people, Matheny admitted to killing at least 10 people. In his trial, the cannibal revealed that he opened a little open pit beef stand, selling burgers he made from his victims. Matheny said no one could tell the difference between the human flesh and pork if he had mixed them.
This is deeply disturbing, and I don't know how somebody could do this.
What's even more disturbing is that many people ate these burgers.
This is a scary story about the fake mother.
One night, there was a father who was on the couch, watching TV, enjoying a drink.
His newborn baby was upstairs in her crib, and he had a baby monitor next to him.
He could hear his wife singing their baby a lullaby. Go to sleep, she was singing.
The father couldn't help but smile. It made him extremely happy. But just then, the front door opened, and his wife came in carrying groceries.
He then looked at his wife with a very scared look on his face as they both heard the woman singing to their baby on the baby monitor, go to sleep, go to sleep.
These are fans of Ted Bundy being interviewed.
Okay, so we all know who Ted Bundy is. But if you don't, he's one of the most prolific serial killers in American history.
He's convicted of over 30 murders between 1974 and 78, but he claims to have over 100 victims.
But to your surprise, Ted Bundy actually had fans. Many of these people couldn't believe that a young, good-looking man could commit such gruesome crimes. Here is the interview.
Every time he turns around, I kind of get that feeling, no, he's gonna get me next,
But yet you're fascinated by him.
Very, very. Every night when I go to bed, I just, I get very scared. I shut my door and lock him,
I'm not afraid of him. He just doesn't look like the type to kill somebody. You try to imagine yourself in his place and see how he's feeling, looking at the pillows with blood stains and everything, if he really did it or
So, clearly the problem is with the release mechanism, because if they could release it, then they would. So for some reason they can't release it.
Was trying to do a Snapchat and it wouldn't drop. I'm like, I'm it's stuck.
Too bad this can't zoom in closer. I'd love to see the faces. Yeah, there's probably helicopters coming in.
Well, I don't see helicopters for miles. As you can tell, we're in the middle of nowhere.
Alright, about 5.5 minutes in. Yeah, this is really unfortunate. Oh, yeah.
I'm watching you.